Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be talking about something that I said I was done talking about on this channel, but due to new information coming up, we're going to be touching this subject one last time. That is going to be on Steep, because there has been some ground breaking tech that's been discovered that may actually warrant a ban. And we're not going to be talking about, well, we're going to be talking about mainly the tech in this video, but not the intricacies of the tech. If you are curious about that stuff, there will be a ton of links down below because there's a lot of information to know. But the TLDR of it is Steve is not taking knockback or hit lag like he's supposed to. He's able to get out of either combos from multi-hits, just things that should be true with a frame one out because of how block works. We talked about that a little bit, but the main point is you're hitting Steve at lower percents and he is being able to hit you back against every single character in the cast. It's a problem. We're going to be talking about it today. We have a bunch of videos lined up. Again, everything will be in the description down below. If you see a video, there'll be a link to it if you are curious, and let's just get right into it. Also, really quickly, I do want to show this video by whydo. Again, we're going to be using a lot of clips in today's video, so every link will be in the description down below. But this is just essentially that Shulk has pretty much the same thing with his hit stun, that he can break out of it and get a free punish, as you can see here. The difference is Shulk isn't already top 1 in a lot of people's eyes. Steve's definitely the best character in the game now. I used to think it was Sonic. It's 100% Steve with this tech discover. It's not even close. But Shulk isn't nearly as good as Steve, so it's not as big of a deal. I don't expect that Shulk will be banned. You also have to consider how much more Steve can get, because as you can see here, Shulk is getting a kill at 70. That's very, very good. He should not be getting that. Shulk is broken, yada yada. Steve, if you hit Steve at any percent, and if he's just at a low percent and you hit Steve with potentially any move, he can kill you off of everything. He can kill you with up air, forward air, probably nair as well. Like, there's so many ways that Steve can kill you if you just hit him at any percent, which is so scary and why this tech is such a big problem. Also, I just forgot to mention at the start, the initial clip that I showed was by xcido and this is by Connor. Again, everything will be down below, but this is just kind of the example of how this clip is game breaking, how this glitch, this a bug, this tech, whatever you want to call it, is breaking the game, because Steve is getting out of these multi-hits for free. The pressure is just gone. He's getting away for free. And it's kind of like giving Steve a frame one out without having him commit to a move. But it's more of a problem, as you can see right there, the multi-hit just not working at all. That is just not okay. We cannot have Steve just flying aerials like that. If he gets hit by the first one, it is very easy to do between hits just to be able to get out of the multi-hits. And multi-hits just don't really work on Steve anymore, and he can kill you off these hits, whether he had a high percent like we've seen in some of these clips, whether he just wants to up tilt you because you're at a low percent. He can minecart, he can down air, he can back air, he can do pretty much everything. I think right there, that's a perfect example of it. The nair from Wolf is still out. This nair isn't even done, and he is already able to punish. That is not okay. You cannot have that in a competitive game. We're hitting your opponent at 0. You just can't hit Steve, because the counterplay to this is there really isn't any besides just you have to hit grounded moves. Like, you can maybe only grab him at lower percents. You can maybe only, I don't know, I'll just put it on a normal video right now, but you can maybe only grab him at normal percents. You can maybe only like hit him with like tilt on the ground, which of course doesn't make sense, unacceptable. And at lower percents, basically no move is going to send it to tumble. So if Steve is just in the air, if you hit him, he just gets a free punish, which of course is not okay. You just can't really allow a character to be punishing you for, like, you win neutral and you get punished. It's not okay. You can die at any percent. Even if you're both at 0 and 0, Steve can hit you with an up tilt and you can die. And even if you don't die, you're still taking 60% for hitting someone, which just, it's obvious. You cannot have that happening. And I think that the tech itself is obviously banned. This is like going without saying that this tech needs to be banned. But then it gets to the problem of how do you enforce this? Because offline, online, it's a little bit hard. Online, I don't think you can enforce it, because I know Hungrybox was talking about enforcing it for Coinbox. You can't do the tech. You either have to ban Steve or you have to allow the tech, because there is no feasible way that you can enforce this. You just don't have the time, the resources, the money to be having just sitting there every single time a Steve play. You can't have someone just watching that entire match. They see something sketchy. In a game like Ultimate especially, where multi-hits suck, things just don't work sometimes. People fall out of moves. You can't have someone replaying every single game Steve played to determine if they did the glitch or not. Because sometimes it is obvious to tell. Sometimes you can see, okay, Steve's going for the block animation, there's a little outline. Sometimes you cannot tell at all, and it's like, okay, that could have just been a multi-hit not working. That could have just been Ultimate being glitchy. Sometimes, again, a little more obvious, especially when there's times where, because there's two versions of it, again, there are times when you get sent into Tumble, when you can do the easiest punish, or when you get sent into Tumble, you can just kind of cancel your knockback, but you're probably not going to get a punish. You just, like, live when you're supposed to die, which is obviously a problem, because he's the only character in the game who could do it, and he's already the best. And then you also have the times, like we've been showing earlier, where you get sent into Tumble, but then you can get that immediate punish right away, which just, it can't happen. Now, another problem with this tech is it allows Steve to avoid combo theory. What combo theory is essentially just if your opponent's fastest option is, let's say, a frame 3 or 2 air dodge, then you have that many frames of leniency. If it's the fastest one is frame 2, you have a frame of leniency where you can mess up, but you can still get it because they don't have anything that actually allows them to act out of the combo. But Steve having this frame 1 option makes it so he doesn't have to worry about combo theory, and your combos have to be perfect. Now, there is characters in this game with that don't have to deal with combo theory. You have Snake, you have PT, you have Luigi. They all have frame 1 outs, but the difference, and the biggest difference, is that one, it's a commitment. It's a commitment. It's a committal move that you have to do. For Luigi, you have to Cyclone. For Snake, you have to pull a grenade, which can like hurt you. For PT, you have to switch entirely, which can be baited super easily. These things can be punished massively. For Steve, you place a block, and immediately you have access to all of your resources. You can shield on the block, you can jump on the block, you can do an attack on the block. It just makes it so if you hit him, there's really no punish that you can get. And the other biggest problem for it is the fact that I've already mentioned this a lot in the video, and I'll probably keep mentioning it because it's just so absurd. He could just kill you at 0. Another thing, again, it's tough to enforce this, so we kind of have to come to the decision. Do we allow the tech to stay, or do we ban Steve? And we can't allow this tech to stay. You just cannot. So then there's the other option, because there's obviously the option of like, okay, ban the tech, just make it so that Steve is going to be like, he just can't use that tech, but he's still in the game. And it's a little bit tricky. We already talked about this earlier, and there has been able to be, like, we've had successful bans of tech before. I think the best one is Dimensional Cape with Meta Knight. If you don't know, in Brawl, Meta Knight can just down B, and he could just never come back. He can just disappear forever. He can hit you once, and he can time you out. But the difference with that is you know when someone's Dimensional Caping. You can just see them. They're just gone. With Steve, it's just like, okay, maybe my multi-hit didn't work. Maybe there's not as much end lag on this move as I thought there was. Maybe he was at like a weird percentage. It just happened. These interactions, they happen in Ultimate a lot, and it can cause a lot of problems where you don't actually know if it was the Steve doing the tech, because again, as we talked about literally earlier, sometimes it's difficult to see when the block is being placed versus just like outright banning the character, because if you ban Steve, you avoid this problem. Plus, Steve is still a very good character. Even without this tech, he's still arguably best in the game. Again, I think without the tech, it's still probably Sonic, not by a large margin, by the way, because I feel like when I talk about it, make it seem like a large margin. It is very, very close. I would just give it to Sonic, but with this tech, undeniably Steve the best by a long shot. And that's why, again, it's such a problem, because he's not the only character in the game that has. Well, to the extent, because like we said, we saw the Shulk clip earlier. It's not to the extent even close, but it's like other people in the game are able to kind of exploit this idea of being able to use a frame 1 out to get a punish when they shouldn't be able to. But the way that Steve does it, and the fact that he has access to it again at all times, is just, it's not fair. Also, really quick before I get, he can do it off the ledge and he can do it out of minecart, which just adds a whole other layer of problems. But I have come to the consensus that I agree, yes, I think Steve should be banned unless there is a way that we can 100% find to 100% guarantee that no one is being able to do this tech in tournament, which I don't really think is plausible. Again, just having someone being watching every single match or watching replays, even offline. Offline's a little different because it's like, you know, the social pressure, but it's still a problem. It's hard to tell. I think characters should be banned, but I think there's a way that you have to ban it, because you can't just ban Steve. It can't just be all of a sudden, okay, this character is gone. You have to give the Steve players a chance. You have to give them a warning. Like, let's say, I think Akla, perfect example. Akla's flying out for Summit in like a month. If you just ban Steve in 2 weeks, that tech's broken, he is screwed for that tournament. I think that happens for a lot of Steve players going to tournaments. So I think you have to wait. I don't really know the exact timeline. I would say 3 months, even just like all events that people have maybe signed up for, made commitments to. I think you have to wait until then. This is for majors only, by the way. If you're at a local scene and you're like, watch this for input, first of all, don't take my advice. Second of all, yeah, you can just do whatever you want. Ban that character right away. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you guys. But I think for a major scene, you have to at least wait a little bit so people are able to, one, adjust, find new characters, prepare, and two, the people that are already signed up don't get screwed over. Because I think that could be a huge problem. People just jump the gun too quickly. And at the end of the day, maybe it isn't that bad. Maybe the tech is just something that's like, it's in super specific scenarios and people are just like, they're ready for it all the time, so they're getting it on Twitter a lot, all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's like that. I think it's a massive problem, and I think it's only going to get worse because people are going to discover more. Maybe Nintendo will patch it. I doubt it. I highly, highly doubt it. But in a perfect world, they do. But until then, I think if you want to argue that Steve is banned, I think that's absolutely fine. If you don't think Steve should be banned, though, I think that's also okay. Again, I always want to stand on the side of like, yes, we should not keep these characters banned because it isn't like fair to the people that are putting in the time, but it's gotten to a point where this glitch is so game breaking. It gives Steve such a fair advantage over the fact that he already has such a huge advantage over basically every character in the game. Just puts him over the edge by that much. I think the character is a problem and that we should, get rid of him. But I'm curious what you guys think. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. So this video was a little bit more ranty, but I kind of just wanted to talk about the topic. I'm curious of what you guys think. This is a problem. I don't really know how to deal with it. Whatever happens, happens, I suppose. Just be nice to each other. Be civil. It's just a character in a video game. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.